All right, JC family, happy Friday morning. Although outside it's kind of nasty, cold and rainy, but I hope you're somewhere dry and warm. Those of you who are at work, I'm the same here at the church. Trey and I are here, but hope you're doing okay. I hope your family's hanging in there. We have made it through another week. This is like the end of the third week of really the serious part of this, and I've been praying for you and hope you're doing okay. I wanted to continue our Matthew study this morning, and I hope you've been reading along with us. If you haven't been, start today. We read a chapter a day in Matthew, and then every couple days or so I come back and we do a short video together to sort of do a devotional and kind of keeping up with our reading. So we're doing something together. Today is Friday morning and we're reading Matthew chapter 16 today. Where we've been, just kind of by way of review, is if you haven't been reading with us, I guess even if you have been, we've just seen the birth of Christ, the beginning of the book of Matthew. We've seen John the Baptist come on the scene in Matthew chapter 3, and Jesus' baptism that started when John the Baptist baptized him and started Jesus' public ministry. We've seen Jesus' ministry himself. He's been preaching about the kingdom of heaven is at hand. John the Baptist has been preaching. Jesus has called his 12 disciples, or his 12 apostles. In chapter 10, he has actually sent them out. He's preaching the message. They're preaching the message. And so we get to our last 3 days of reading, which has been Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We're in chapters 13, 14, and 15. In chapter 13, we have the kingdom parables. Jesus is telling parables, and as we look at these parables, kind of what you can see in these parables without going into depth in it is you see the contrast of those who accepted the message and accepted Christ and those who rejected him, and the consequences of each of those decisions. We also see the value of the kingdom message, the gospel message, the great value that it is. We go over to chapters 14 and 15, and this is where I want to be. At the beginning of chapter 14, John the Baptist, who was preaching in Matthew 3, he is actually killed. Herod kills him, actually beheads him. And the reason for it is John the Baptist called him out on his relationship that he had that was inappropriate, his marriage relationship, and he was killed by Herod the Tetrarch. But where I really want to focus is there are two stories here in chapter 14 and 15, and one is the feeding of the 5,000 and one is the feeding of the 4,000. They are back-to-back stories, but I wanted to point out first that they are not the same story. It's not a repeat. We know that for several reasons. One is that there was 5,000 people at the first one, 5,000 men, and then there were the men and women besides. That's what the scriptures say. The second story in chapter 15, there was 4,000 men and then the women and the children beside. Also in the feeding of the 5,000, we had the 5 loaves and the 2 fish. The feeding of the 4,000, we had 7 loaves and a few fish. In the feeding of the 5,000, we had 12 baskets left over. In the feeding of the 4,000, we had 7 baskets left over. I point all that out just to show that it's not the same incident. They were separated. Okay. But I want to point out 2 verses to you. One is found in the first story of the feeding of the 5,000, and I think you really like this. Verse 17 says, "They said to him," the disciples said to Jesus, "We have only 5 loaves here and 2 fish." In chapter 15, verse number 33, the disciples said to him, "Where are we to get enough bread in such a desolate place to feed so great a crowd?" Interesting. Verse 17 in chapter 14, the feeding of the 5,000, Jesus asked them, "You give them something to eat." The response was, "We have only 5 loaves here and 2 fish." And I understand that. We can understand why they would kind of question that. There's 5,000 people there, plus the women and the children, maybe 15,000 people there. And Jesus said, feed them. And they said, we only have these 5 loaves and the 2 fish. Now, they could have known or should have known that Jesus can do anything he wants because they've seen that already in his ministry. But we'll give him a pass because, this is, I guess I would ask the same question, how is this going to work? And then, of course, we know Jesus, he multiplied the fish and the loaves and did that. So we get that. In the next verse, he asked them again. They need to be fed, this great crowd of 15 or 12,000 people. And the disciples said to him again, where are we to get enough bread in such a desolate place to feed so great a crowd? In other words, where are we going to get this bread? Now, I'm not going to give him a pass on this one. He just did this. And they said, but how are you going to do this? And he did it again. And he multiplied the loaves and the fish, and there was some left over, and he did it again. They forgot. Here's what I want us to do today. I want us to not forget what Christ has done for us in the past. We forget real quick. He has always taken care of us in the past. We know that because we've arrived up to this point. You hear me say that on Sundays. We made it to today. And on this Friday, we made it to today. Don't forget what he's done in the past. He's got us through some really tough times. And don't say, what are you going to do, Lord? He's got us again today. So today, I just want you to be thinking about what he did in the past and that he will do it today and he'll do it tomorrow and he will take care of us. JC family, hope you're doing okay. I'm praying for you. Do not forget to pray for each other. And today is Friday morning and we made it. And he still got us.